Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's going on, Lock Shoppers? Welcome to the program. I am back, a little jet lagged, but ready to roll. We've got a big show today. We got to get into week 5 in the Canadian Football League and a whole lot of international soccer, and no better person to do that with than Matty Iwanyk. Andrew Paterson with you. The Lock Shop, as always, brought to you by our great partners in Coolbet Canada. You just missed a huge plus money winner in the Nathan's Hot Dog Contest, which we will get to in just a moment. But if you haven't played at Coolbet before, use the promo code LOCKSHOP. When you're making your first deposit, hook you up with a 100% bonus up to $200. Matty, what's going on? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. We had our $100,000 hole-in-one contest yesterday. One person hit the green, that's it. So it was a fun time, though, out at the ranch. And now just getting set for the start of week 5 in the Canadian Football League, the start of the knockout stages in Copa and the next round of Euros.
Yes, lots going on. Listen, I mentioned, and it's almost good that yesterday I was traveling, and that was the day that I had to miss, because it would have been a very sorrowful and sad Lock Shop talking about the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest without the great Joey Chestnut in it. But I will say, after just watching the event on ESPN, that there are two people that make the 4th of July the 4th of July. Joey Chestnut is one of them. He wasn't there, so obviously it wasn't a normal contest. But it is George Shea, the orator and host of that event, that is truly, in the world of comedy, maybe the funniest and greatest introductions. If you don't even watch the contest, maybe the most must-watch 10 minutes of television a year is George Shea introducing the Eaters at Coney Island. And he came through and did his part. It was, I'll say this, it was an incredible, incredible contest considering Joey wasn't there, because there was actually a lot of suspense. And for those of you that like to bet on the Nathan's Hot Dog Contest, we got Patrick Deep Dish Bertholetti, 58 hot dogs and buns, a new personal best for him. I didn't check the odds right afterwards. I got home. You'll love this. I touched down in Winnipeg last night about 1:45 a.m. And I finally got back into Canadian space. I turned on my phone. I didn't check Twitter. I didn't go on Instagram. I didn't even look at my text messages. I pulled up Coolbet Canada and immediately got to the line for the Nathan's Hot Dog Contest. And Patrick Deep Dish Bertholetti was plus 895 to win the event. Jeffrey Esper, who's long been the bridesmaid at this event, was plus 105. James Webb, an up-and-coming eater from down under, who I believe had topped 48 hot dogs and buns, was at plus 120. And it seemed like the book thought it was a 2-horse race. But the man from Chicago, they call Deep Dish, comes through with the performance of a lifetime, the mustard belt that has always eluded him. Will there be an asterisk? Of course there will be. But for him and for everybody that backed him at plus 895, it truly is a great 4th of July. The event never fails to deliver, even without the greatest competitive eater of all time.
I just love how you have this full insight and breakdown of what happened. I don't know if there's anyone else out there in Canada that could break it down better than you just did. And I love that the first thing you do, you finally back in Canada after this long travel delay. You got to get to the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest to get that in. And
he did the odds.
Incredible, Huss. Incredible. I don't even
thought
know
it
where
was-
to go with this. So like you sit down and you watch this whole thing.
Well, I mean, it's not that long. I mean, the intros go for. I didn't catch the first half hour, although Mickey Sudo,
First
a legend,
half hour.
a legend of competitive eating, had a record breaking performance on the women's side. So congratulations to her as well. And then at about 11:30, 11:35 Winnipeg time, the eaters start coming out. As I say, George Shea does his thing. It is truly the most entertaining few minutes in TV for the entire year. And then we got going on. And listen, Bertholetti he never stopped in the past. And I don't know, I think there's a psychological wall that you get of competing against Joey Chestnut, where guys sort of fell off at the end. He did not. There was a bunch of personal bests in the event. But for a guy only ranked number 9 in the world, deep dish, Bertholetti, I believe he holds the record for 275 jalapeno poppers.
275 jalapeno poppers.
Yeah.
Have fun the next day with that one.
Listen, when you think about the sacrifice and commitment that these people do for their art, for their sport,
For their
there's
legacy.
a lot of sacrifice. And in the post-match interview with Bertholetti, they asked Deep Dish, I mean, what he did to come up with his greatest performance ever. And he got in the gym. He lost some weight. He was looking great. He was
As you would.
He probably gained a couple pounds today. But yes, it was Deep Dish. Deep Dish had a huge number. I really thought that Esper was going to graduate. I thought about Bertholetti, but I thought it was Jeffrey Esper. But this was obviously he had been waiting for this opportunity to compete, and that's why you see a lot of these other competitive eating stars go into events around the country throughout the year without Joey Chestnut in them. Although Chestnut is the king of hot dogs and buns, obviously. But there are occasional events that he does not win in other disciplines. So
He's like Roger. Was this Rafael Nadal on the clay of French Open? Joey Chestnut has his disciplines.
You know what? I'm glad you brought up Nadal, because I was trying to think of a good analogy to it. This is like the French Open during, maybe not right now, but back up 3 years and before, where it was death taxes and Nadal beating everyone at Roland Garros. This was like the French Open in Nadal's prime, with Nadal out of the event. It was wide open. Everybody felt that they had a legitimate chance. And I went for listen, it will be talked about as the event that did not have Joey in it, but for Patrick Deep Dish Bertholetti, a longtime star of Major League Eating, this was his day, and congratulations to him.
You don't get to choose your competition. You just got to go beat your competition. And he did that today.
They don't make the schedule. You just have to worry about yourself. And
you eat in front of whoever you have to go up against.
Congratulations to Deep Dish. And
he's got to be the best at eating pizza then. Is that why he's Deep Dish?
He's from Chicago, so I think it's
okay.
just that is a
enough.
nickname, and I'm sure he's probably dominated a number of those competitions as well. But let's get to it. Hey, listen, before we get to CFL,
okay,
before we get to the soccer,
okay,
I want to back up to last weekend with the soccer, as we're getting ready for Canada to play in the group stage. But Canada moving on. And listen, I spent obviously a much longer time in Vegas than I had expected. I was around many U.S. soccer fans who are absolutely irate.
Love it.
The Mexicans, they are pissed too. And how about Canada? We were the kings of CONCACAF, qualifying for the World Cup in 2022. And who's left standing? Canada and Panama.
Yeah, it's Canada, Panama. We're the two left from CONCACAF. Who would have guessed?
What did you make of that first round overall?
I'll start with Canada. Like it kind of happened exactly how I thought Canada would go through that tournament. It would be a loss to Argentina, and then it would be a win and a draw to Peru and Chile, and it was all dependent on what would happen between Peru and Chile. Well, Canada have to go through in goal differential, points, whatever it might be, but they could get through. And the fact that Peru and Chile drew that first match, it was like, okay, this is the path. Canada just needs to go get the 1 win, 1 draw, and they're going to go through. So, getting only 1 goal, I'm not upset by that. They did what they needed to. They got the win, they got the draw, they got their 4 points, and they're advancing. I actually predicted them at the start of this tournament to get to the semifinals of this tournament and lose to Argentina there. So it's going as it should. When you look at Canada, the concern I would have for Canada moving forward is when it came to Peru and Chile, they beat Peru largely because Peru took a red card. Well, they should have 2 red cards in that match, but they took the 1 red card. Canada took advantage of it. Then Chile, they took a red card early. It was like the 25th minute or whatever it was. And at the end of the match, while Canada didn't score, they had one which was clearly offside, and it was called back. At the end of the match, possession was like 55-45 Canada versus Chile. And when you have a match where most of the time you are on up a man, that ball possession number should be 60-65% in Canada's favor. So like they didn't really take it to Chile as much as I would have liked to have seen. So that, have been having 2 matches where they didn't get the full, 11v11, and they're now a little used to 10v11. I wonder how that impacts them. But they did what they needed to do, and they progressed how I thought they would, Argentina being the best, and Canada was right there with Peru and Chile. As for the Americans and Mexicans, this is just wonderful. Mexico has not been good for a number of years now. Like, they've gone and they've won the Gold Cup, I think, the last time. They're a Nations League champ in that time. But since that 2022 World Cup qualifying cycle, Mexico has not looked like Mexico. They are in big trouble. They have a lot that I think they need to go figure out. And as for the Americans, they're just a disaster. They're a mess. Everyone expects better from America, but they bring back the same manager who isn't that good of a manager. I don't know if you saw the highlights of their game against Uruguay, but they needed Panama. Like, if Panama drew with Bolivia.
I watched it in the sports book with both games going on at the same time. It was awesome.
How did the people react when Greg Bellholzer, the manager, was showing 1-1 to his team? Like, it was such a loser mentality to be like, we're good. The other match is 1-1, even though there's still 25 minutes to be played. Like, go focus on your game and worry about the draw later. Like, coaches need to know what's going on in the other one. The players don't. Like, what do you want them to do with that information that it's 1-1? Well, you want them to just sit back now? No, you still need to go win, because all it takes is 1 goal in the other game and it's over. And what happened? Well, Uruguay scored seconds later anyways. And the Americans got knocked out. So, like, they want big changes in America. They want everyone out. There's us, Canada, with the American manager that so many American supporters want managing their team. And we're through into the knockout stage and getting set to go for Friday. But, it's been, the fact that Brazil also couldn't get past Colombia, that was going to be a tough one. But they dropped points earlier, so we get the Uruguay-Brazil early match as opposed to the semifinal. The Copa has been last weekend. There was a couple of really surprising results. But hey, go Canada, baby.
Yeah, it was funny. I heard Carly Lloyd, all bitchy that Canada was through with only scoring 1 goal. Well,
no one wants to see Canada, she says.
Yeah, well, and I get it. I mean, if I was sitting here as Canadians, I'd be saying, yeah, no one wants to see the U.S. or Mexico. I mean, you're rivals, so whatever. But complaining that they got through with scoring 1 goal, I mean, you have to see and figure out what the circumstances are. I'll say this. I didn't like the first half against Peru. I didn't think that they were playing very well.
They're very disjointed.
But listen, they took advantage of it. They got the goal, and they got the win. And then when you go up a man in a game that you need to draw to win, to move on and achieve your goal, you make sure that you don't give up too much the other way. And I mean, I'm sure it could have been better, but they got the job done, and they move on.
And it was actually, like, Canada had the toughest group, I would say. The Americans, they scored some goals, but they beat Bolivia. Okay, put Canada in that group and see what Canada would have done against Bolivia. Of course, they would have scored more goals in that
and
one.
Panama.
When that's the thing, Canada, I would have had no worries about Panama. I think Canada would have got past Panama without the draw there. So to have Canada only scored 1 goal. I don't know if the Americans would have scored more than 1 goal in the group that Canada was in, anyways. So, she also, though, had the comment earlier in the tournament where she related Christian Pulisic to Lionel Messi. And it was an immediate, like, everyone just ripped her for it on Twitter, and she blocked anyone ripping her for it. But, yeah, those were the takes that she's been having this tournament. Was she put Pulisic in the same conversation and Messi and Bellingham even. And then she then says, yeah, Canada going through with 1, even though, hey, look, the Americans only got 3 points. Canada got 4. That's what matters. It's not about how many goals you score. It's about those points. And Canada got the 4 to go through.
Carly was Blocktober has come early. She was going crazy on that. And hey, listen, I'll give her as a player, she was phenomenal. Part of a dynastic U.S. women's team. She did it all on it, but you can see that there's still that element of and I say this funny because I mean it's not a soccer arrogance compared to the rest of the world, but it certainly is compared to the rest of North America. And they're finding out right now that Canada's on the come up. And your point about Jesse Marsh, by the way, that was one thing that came out when I talked to a few of the hardos, like that had the jerseys on, and they were all really cool afterwards. They were just pissed off. I heard from a number of people, Jesse Marsh should be our head coach. And think about this. They're going to do a whole nother review and everything, move on. Like, we're not that far away from the World Cup.
Nope.
We're 2 years away. I mean, the way that this has turned out, when you think about where our program was a year ago, it is it's pretty exciting to see the guy that we hired, the job that he's done so far, this result right now, Friday night notwithstanding. We'll see what happens against the Venezuelans. I would say that we've sort of turned the corner, Matt, and brighter days are ahead. We're on the right track. We've got a huge match tomorrow, which will be one of the biggest in the history of the men's national team program. And I think there's a little bit more confidence restored in the program, at least on the men's side, as we go forward into the rest of this tournament, but most importantly, the 2024 World Cup.
Yeah, no, and then, like, the thing is, this is the biggest tournament before the next World Cup. And that's where Canada, like, this is how you're going to have to really evaluate for 2 years from now. Because when you look at Canada, U.S., and Mexico, there's no qualification process. You don't have those big matches leading into a World Cup. You just are automatically through. So where are you going to get your competition? Where are you going to get that playing time to evaluate your team? Next summer is a Gold Cup, but no one takes the Gold Cup seriously. No one cares. It's not that big of a tournament. And then there's the Nations League in CONCACAF. And in September, Canada, U.S., and Mexico are playing each other in friendlies. But in the friendlies are friendlies. When there's not points on the line or advancing through a knockout stage, it's always going to be a little bit different. So for the Americans, they've really blown an opportunity to be prepared for 2026 while Canada's taken full advantage of this. And also for our program, which isn't the case for the U.S., as you progress through soccer tournaments, money comes in. And if Canada can find a way to knock out Venezuela tomorrow, that just means a lot more money coming to Canada Soccer. And for the coffers of Canada Soccer, that is crucial. That is so important. So even just for us here, just getting that extra cash is going to be huge. And then just one more point on Carly Lloyd. One reason she might be bitter is her final national match with the U.S. women's national team was losing to Canada at the Olympics. So she might just be a little extra bitter that we went on to win that gold in her final year.
Hey, we know that was their big rival, and it still is there. Just quickly, how does the money work? Like, how lucrative is it for Canada Soccer if they were to, let's just say, win this game? I mean, just ballpark. I don't need the exact numbers, but and this is who is this a FIFA tournament?
No, this is CONMEBOL. So this is the South American region. Like, we have CONCACAF. They have CONMEBOL. It's their tournament. They've invited CONCACAF into it, but it's theirs just like the Euros is the UEFA tournament. So the prize breakdown, so Canada got $2 million for being in the group stage. They get another $2 million for advancing to the quarterfinals. If they win that match, they're guaranteed fourth place, which gives them at least $4 more million. So you're talking about $8 million coming to Canada Soccer if they could beat Venezuela. If they happen to instead win the third place match, it would be $9 million total. If they could find a way to magically beat Argentina, runner-up gets an additional $7 million, winner gets $16 million. So there's a lot of money on the table with this. But just right now, Canada's gotten $4 million. And with a win tomorrow, that's $8 million coming at minimum to Canada Soccer, which for us, that's a lot of money.
The thing that I do love about soccer as well is that there are huge upsets. I mean, we remember, was it Greece winning the Euros in 2000 or 2004, I think?
Yep.
Canada winning the Gold Cup at that point where they just kept on winning penalty shots and whatever. But listen, let's just get to that right now. And listen, before we get to Venezuela, Canada, we've got Argentina, Ecuador tonight. Argentina, big favorite, minus 208. The draws plus 300. Ecuador at plus 850. I don't imagine there's a lot of suspense in this one. This is Argentina's game to lose.
100%. I will also, reminder for anyone that doesn't follow Copa America, they also don't do extra time. So if the match is a draw at the end of 90, they go straight to penalties.
Oh.
Yes. That changes a lot, doesn't it? Like, some teams are going to play for penalties. Like, some teams are going to try to drag teams to penalties because you don't have to play that extra 30 minutes. You go straight to penalties in Copa America.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I had absolutely no idea about that. I knew in the round robin that wouldn't be the case.
No, yeah, they go straight to penalties. We don't get that 30 minutes of extra time being added afterwards. I like Argentina. It's not really great value at minus 208. The guy that hasn't scored yet, I don't believe at least he has scored yet, is Lionel Messi. I don't think he's got a goal this tournament.
Well, you got kept getting robbed by Crepeau in the first match.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to double check this to make sure I'm not losing my mind. But yeah, I'm not seeing him on the goal list. And right now that's plus 135 on Coolbet. So if you're looking for a little something for today's game, that's probably where I would look to, is Lionel Messi getting a goal as opposed to, Argentina at minus 208.
If you want to get Argentina on the three-way spread, minus 1.5, so they'd have to win by 2, plus 144. And yes, Messi is back in the lineup after sitting out game 3 of the group stage. And then we get to Venezuela, Canada. Here are your odds on the three-way. Plus 150 for Venezuela, plus 210 for a draw, plus 215 for Canada. I was a little surprised we weren't a bigger underdog, just being who we are, playing again. Like, tell us about Venezuela, Matt. That's what I need to know a little bit more about, because we've talked a lot about our team.
Yeah, Venezuela, I got to double check where they are in the national rankings, because people will sometimes look to that a little bit. And right now they're ranked 54th in the world. Canada's ranked a bit higher than that, if I'm not mistaken. Canada, they're 48. So, like, it's relatively close. The thing about Venezuela, though, right now is CONMEBOL is in their World Cup qualifying cycle already. They've been playing matches qualifying for the 2026 World Cup. And Venezuela has been playing really well in that, including going to Brazil and getting a draw out in Brazil. Venezuela is actually playing some really strong football right now. They are in form. So this is a team that, you can't take lightly. One of the best rating systems out there, though, there's something called the ELO rankings when it comes to soccer. And what it does is it gives you a ranking, like the FIFA World Cup ranking is a joke. It's very weird how they do it. This ELO ranking kind of takes your year and it values where you are. And Venezuela, according to that, is actually globally ranked 18th in the world, while Canada's 33. So the way Venezuela has been playing lately over the last X number of months, 6-7 months or whatever, they are a very tough team to play against. They are a tough team to beat. So this is going to be a challenge for Canada. Canada, they will not have Tajon Buchanan. He had that broken tibia. He's going to be out 4 to 6 months. The good part for Canada is Tajon hasn't had a great tournament. And there's no good part to an injury. But if you're looking for that silver lining, I guess, in this is, when he has started, he hasn't looked great. He hasn't looked explosive or anything. When he came in as a sub, though, against Chile, that's when we saw a little bit of explosiveness, and that's where Canada's going to miss him. But I wonder if this is a rallying cry for this team. When that injury happened, and Matt Shinetti from TSN was reporting on it, he talked about how it immediately was a somber mood at that practice. So I wonder for Canada if there's a little bit of a rally. Do this for Tajon, which gives them a little bit bump. But I'm not shocked Venezuela is the favorites. I'm a little more shocked that they go draw ahead of Canada a little bit here. But this should be a really good one. And I think with the way, Canada has been playing, knowing that they've got out of the knockout stage through a tough group, you add in that France draw that they had prior to the tournament, I think this team is coming in feeling very strong about where they are as well. So this should be a very entertaining match tomorrow between Canada and Venezuela.
Now, as far as the just the to qualify number, which includes penalties, and this is about getting through, Venezuela's minus 133, Canada minus 105.
They're putting that really close.
Absolutely, they are. And I'll tell you what. I mean, I don't know much at all about Venezuela and certainly about their goalie, but Crepeau's been so good. I mean, if this does go to penalties, I mean, I've got a lot of confidence in our guy back there, the last line of defense. And some of you maybe rode with me on Canada to lose in the quarterfinal, essentially to get out of the group stage and lose at this point. It was 4-1 plus 400. I certainly don't want to be in the situation where I'm hoping Canada does not move on. So I think the plan here is to, like, say you put $20 on Canada to be out in the quarters. That would pay 100. I think the play to do it is maybe go with, say, 40 or even 50 on Canada to qualify. Then you can cheer for Canada. You'll get your 100, and you've assured yourself making money one way or the other. So that's something to do with. Plus 215 on the three-way for Canada. And again, they've got the Canada 2024 bonus on that. Just simply click that when you're making a wager at Coolbet. If you bet $25 on Canada to win, obviously that bet's live. You'll also get $5 for every goal scored in the match. So that's tomorrow, 8 p.m. here, 7 o'clock out in Edmonton. Venezuela, Canada. When this is the fill in the blanks here, Maddie. And I mean, I'm assuming the answer is World Cup, but maybe outside of World Cup, this is Canada's biggest match for the men's national team since when?
Oh, boy. Biggest match for the Canadian men's national team since.
Is this bigger than any of the World Cup qualifiers?
Well, I was trying to go, but they just did so well in those World Cup qualifiers that I don't think they had that moment where, like, they started off so, like, they were getting draws. Maybe that Panama match, but there was still so much to be played that maybe since the last World Cup, like not 2022 World Cup, like the World Cup before that. If you want to take that, the 2022 World Cup, the 87 World Cup, maybe. I don't know.
It's huge.
Like, because this is a chance to get to the semifinal against largely Argentina, with a shot at getting to a final of Copa America. Like the World Cup qualifying process, like I said, like they did so well and they got their draws, but then started getting so many wins that there was no panic that when they ultimately, I think they were in Honduras. No, it wasn't Honduras. They went south before they came and ultimately clinched their qualifying against Jamaica up here. Like, it wasn't like, if they lost that match, who cares? They were in such a good spot. I would have to say it's just the biggest. If we're going to take away the World Cup match, the 2022 World Cup, I would have to argue that this is probably the biggest, and I don't know if I could put one up there outside of maybe the Gold Cup final. I guess I'll go there. Gold Cup final is a chance to win a trophy, and they won a trophy.
That is wild. If you're just quickly on the winner of the tournament outrights right now, Argentina plus 100, Brazil 4-1, Uruguay plus 550. They're playing head to head on Saturday.
I like that one. I think Uruguay. Cool. I don't like the way that with some of the stuff I've seen from Brazil in this tournament. I think Uruguay might take down Brazil.
Well, okay, just Canada's 40-1. So if you want to really ride with the dream, there you go. But yeah, this Uruguay. So we got two games. Colombia is a massive favorite against Panama. Massive favorite. But this Uruguay plus 180, draw plus 220, Brazil plus 170. The two qualify is basically a pick 'em, Matt. This is as close to a coin flip as you're going to get, and you're kind of like the Uruguayans.
This was supposed to be the semifinal match. Everything was designed for these two to meet in the semifinal, but Brazil, they had the draw in one of their matches, and that forced them that they fell second in their group. So we get this early on. I think Uruguay is just feeling really good with the way they've been playing right now. They've seemed to have a little bit of a resurgence again to being strong, and there's just like I had a lot of high hopes about Brazil coming into this tournament. but they've seemed to have struggled a little bit to find their form and really play at their strongest, that I think it's there for Uruguay to maybe take advantage of that and knock out Brazil. And that's where it's like, I think actually even before the tournament, I had Uruguay beating Brazil in the semi for this one too. So I've just, really have liked the entire form of Uruguay for the last little bit. So yeah, I think Uruguay as the slightest of underdogs as you could ever get in this one, as the minus 110 versus the minus 111 to qualify. I think there's a really good chance that Uruguay could take down Brazil. And then, yeah, Colombia is just way better than Panama. That to me is very much like Argentina, Ecuador. Shouldn't really be much of a contest. The two big games, it's going to be Canada, Venezuela, and then it's going to be Brazil, Uruguay.
Quickly on the Euro, man, tomorrow's going to be unreal. Spain, Germany, early.
Great match.
Portugal, France, late. And then England, Switzerland, and Netherlands, Turkey. We won't go through all of these games, but let's pick your brain. I mean, you have a pick or two? Or your favorite leans amongst these quarterfinals at the Euro?
I got to go with what I got into a pool with my brother for his work for the Euros and Copa together. And the final four I picked was England, France, Spain, and Netherlands. And it's all designed now where all those teams could go advance to the next round. So I'm just going to stick with that right off the bat. That's the way I went with it. Spain and Germany is going to be a tight one. I really like the manager of Germany. That's the reason I was pretty high on Germany coming into this tournament, Julian Nagelsmann. But Spain is playing some of the best football I think I've seen from them since they went on the run of the Euros, World Cup Euros. So that should be a fascinating game to watch, but I really do like Spain in that one. I'm not sold on Portugal because all they keep doing, and knew this was going to come into the tournament, they just try to feed Ronaldo the ball. And Ronaldo, that's not the way to win. Ronaldo isn't that player anymore. And yet they keep trying to feed him the ball. And then he also will take the free kicks, and he takes awful choices with the free kicks because he goes for it as opposed to maybe putting the ball in the box. Very selfish player. And at this age and in point of his career, he can't be a selfish player. He's got to do what's best for the nation, but no, it's what's best for Ronaldo. So I like France in that one. Turkey's been a fun Cinderella story. I don't know what to make because the Netherlands always find a way to blow it, though. They always find a way to stub their toes or something. And is it going up against the Cinderella story? Is that going to be the thing that does it? So I don't know where. And
they're
England,
by far the biggest favorite.
Absolutely.
I've actually put this together. This is the Iwanyk special. And you know what? I'm going to fire this off to the because of your wonderful contributions to the Lock Shop, we're going to get an Iwanyk special in the Lock Shop section. Now, this is, we're not picking these on the three ways. I've just picked these teams to qualify, to make through. Spain minus 114, France minus 147, England minus 161, Netherlands minus 312. It comes out to plus 575. We'll get it boosted above 6-1.
I love that.
And I'm just looking. I mean, just based on what it is in the computer, $25 would pay 168.81. So I'm not sure if Jake or Patty are in the chat right now, but I will send that over. So in fact, before I make that wager, let's get it up in the exclusives. And you'll have to get that before tomorrow. So pay attention in the exclusives in the Lock Shop section. Maddie, quickly, let's head over to the CFL.
Yes.
We got 4 big games in the league starting tonight. Elks are on the bye, but it's the Argos and the Riders. This game opened 3.5. It is now 4 for the Argos. Big story here. No Trevor Harris. By the way, CFL fans, if you haven't checked it out, we got a new show, CFL 110. Myself and Jeff Hamilton here in the Peg. Search CFL 110 wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or check it out and subscribe over on the Winnipeg Sports Talk channel. I kind of like Saskatchewan's defense. I do think that Toronto is a better team. I think Dukes has been impressive so far. Huge opportunity for Shea Paterson. I think Toronto's the better team. I think they probably win. But I'll be honest, now that this line is at 4, and we've seen so many nail-biting close games in the CFL, I think I'm going to take the points.
Yeah, I think, the Argos having to go on the road for this one, too, and the Riders at home, that's always a difficult thing to do.
Shorter week.
Shorter week. With the Riders, this is a team, though, that, as you mentioned, no Trevor Harris now. And you look at the schedule that they've had for the wins. It's not like they've gone through the toughest, right? They get the double win against Hamilton. They beat the Edmonton Elks. So, fully, this is now a true test of who are the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And I look at the Argos. They're coming into this game probably pretty hungry as well because of how much the Montreal Alouettes just beat them down last weekend. That I would take the Argos with that number at 4 now, though. I'm with you. I feel like this is a field goal game, so I probably would stick with the Saskatchewan Roughriders with the line being +4. But I like the Toronto Argonauts. I like them to rebound, and Cameron Dukes has been a pretty good player for the team since replacing Chad Kelly. So I'm with you on that. Riders +4.
Now we got the Ottawa-Winnipeg game
with Chris Streveler as the
tomorrow.
starting QB.
Yes, the Strevolution has arrived. I'll say this: he did a lot more with the Bomber offense than they were doing with Zach. It's a very tough spot for a backup to come in without Dalton Schoen, without Kenny Lawler, but that is where they are. The defense has been playing better, though. That's the thing. The defense held them in that game against Calgary. They've done it before, and they've been really beat up, especially on the D-line. They got to get this win. They're 2.5-point favorites. I'm taking Winnipeg. I have been opposite the Bombers almost every week so far this year. It is the return game for Drew Brown, Bobby Dice coming in. They've got some good mojo after the walk-off win against Hamilton, finally done it. But I don't know. I think the Bombers find a way to win in front of their home crowd. If this was more than 3, I don't think I could do it. But at 2.5, I will very tentatively take Winnipeg to cover.
Yeah, and I've actually been on the Bombers this entire season. I've picked with the Bombers on the spread this entire season. And now with all the injuries, Dalton Schoen, Kenny Lawler, and now no Zach Collaros. Look, this team, they've looked worse than the Edmonton Elks, who are also 0-4 on the season. I'm taking Ottawa on this one. I'll take the point. If right now with the way they're playing and stuff, and with the injuries that the Bombers are dealing with, I understand they're at their home. I'm going to take the points with the Redblacks in this one easily.
Calgary and Montreal. Calgary traveling all the way across the country to Montreal to take on the team that has been far and away the class of the CFL so far this year. It is a big number at 9.5.
Yeah.
But we just saw them go in and win in Toronto against the arguably number 2 team in the league and win by double digits on the road. I did not think Jake Maier looked particularly good in the game last week against the Bombers. I don't have a lot of confidence that Calgary hangs with Montreal. I'm going to lay the points. I don't often do a big number like that. I'm taking Montreal -9.5.
Yeah, it's a tough one just because that is a lot of points, And I wonder if maybe the Montreal Alouettes, they overlook the Calgary Stampeders. They come off that big game. Whenever you have that big game,
always possible.
There is that little downtime. You go out to Toronto, you dominate them, you come and think, it's just Calgary coming into town. It's just Calgary coming into the playing this. So I still got to do our picks a little bit later. So maybe my mind will change moving forward. But I think I would take the Stamps to cover on this one. There was a pretty decent number a few weeks ago when Calgary went out to BC, and the Calgary Stampeders found a way to cover that one. So I think maybe there's that opening there where the Owls, as good as they are, they're by far the best scoring team in the Canadian Football League. They have 127 points so far this season. Next closest is BC at 103. I think maybe this is one of those. They overlook their opponent in the Calgary Stampeders. That gives the Stamps a little bit of hope in this game, but ultimately the Owls do win by maybe 7 or so. But I would take the Stampeders to cover in this one.
So here we go. I've got BC at Hamilton. And BC at times looks so good.
Yeah.
And then others, they look like they're just still sort of trying to find themselves. Now, Hamilton, much like the Bombers, 0-4, could easily be 2-2. They sort of shot themselves in the foot last week, allowing that field position to Ottawa. 2 plays later, they're kicking a game-winning field goal. BC's 5.5-point favorites on the road in Hamilton. BC, because of their geography, has always had a tough time traveling all the way across the country in the East. This was 6. It's now down to 5.5. That is still a big number. And I mean, you saw and talked about that BC Elks game. I mean, again, speaking of teams just finding a way to keep it close and lose, they've been great covering the spread. They've been terrible winning football games. I have a hard time laying 5.5 points with BC on the road with this travel, even against an 0-4 Hamilton team. And again, I think there's just been so many great close games this year in the Canadian Football League. I don't really expect any different in this one. Do I think BC wins? Probably. Do I think they cover 6? Nah, I'm taking Hamilton.
Yeah, I'll take BC to cover in this one. They've had a nice break. You know, they played last Thursday against the Elks. They don't play and they don't travel out, and the game's on Sunday. Like, so they get a lot of time in between football games. I don't think the BC Lions were particularly great against the Edmonton Elks. So a couple of the receivers dropped some balls that they needed to catch from passes from Vernon Adams. So I feel like this is one of those games where it's like almost the flip of the Alouettes, where I said the Owls maybe coming down after beating a good opponent. I think the BC Lions come into this one maybe a little annoyed with themselves to a degree in how they played against the Elks, and probably feeling that they could have done more. And when it comes to Hamilton Tiger Cats, like, we haven't really seen them against the top opponents that I fully yet. And I guess I'm disrespecting the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who are undefeated there, but it's also I just don't believe in who the Hamilton Tiger Cats are. That I think that BC Lions defense maybe steps up a little bit more. They find a way to pick off Bo Levi Mitchell and VA in that offense. They can go off. And I don't think, while the Elks did a decent enough job containing Hollins and McInnes in the last game, I don't think that's going to happen in back-to-back weeks, especially with the amount of time off the BC Lions had. So them to get in the, covering 5.5, I'll take that going into this weekend on Sunday.
All right. So to clarify, I'll send you these picks officially for our season long. I gotta get back at it after not a particularly great week last week.
Tom Gazzola dominating right now, by the way, of all people.
Tommy G. It's all that time on the sidelines.
Getting all the insight.
All that time, you know what? He's just, he's really doing a lot of time thinking about it. He's making that hour in front of the mirror every day productive by listening to CFL pods and whatnot. So Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, Montreal, and Hamilton. That's where I'm going. Oh, geez, I guess I've taken all home teams, regardless of the spread.
Now, my spread was from Tuesday or so it's a little different. So be sure to, right? I think it's plus 2.5 for the Argos.
Oh, that might change things a little bit with the official. Anyways,
that's why for the EST and WST, our little internal stuff, take a closer look at the numbers there.
All right, I certainly will. Quickly over to the majors, because I did want to put together a double play for everybody today. I'm going to go to late games. There's a whole bunch of games on right now. The Jays and Astros are 3-3 right now. It's a kind of funny. The Jays are playing a matinee on the 4th of July. You would have thought that maybe that would have been.
They never. It seems like they never get to play Canada Day or do things on Canada Day, but they're always doing something on the 4th of July.
Yeah, well, they did wear the red earlier this week against Houston. I just thought they might have been on to another series already. Anyways,
they should never be playing at home on July 4th, and they should always be at home on July 1st.
The double play for today, we're going to take the Dodgers. They are in the late game, home to the D-backs, and going to try and squeeze a win out of the Brewers, taking on the Rockies on the road. Pitching matchups in that one, you got Myers, who's 5-2 with a 3.26 on the bump for the Brew Crew, against Cal Quantrill, who's 6-6. 3.78 ERA for the Rockies is actually still pretty damn good. And then Knack, one of the younger pitchers for the Dodgers, 1-1 with a 2.08 against Zach Gallen. Great pitching matchup. We're going to go with the two stronger clubs overall with the better records. That one is plus 198 when you put it in manually. So again, wait for the boost. We'll have that over in the exclusives. Lock, shock, double play, Brew Crew, Dodgers tonight. And as I've coined it in our chat, the Matthew Iwanyk Big Brain Euro Special, France, Spain, England, Netherlands,
it's up.
All to qualify. It's already up.
Plus 650.
Yes. Oh, God, I can't get on that quickly. I love they actually used it. They used my title for it. There we go. And that's a very nice boost. And that is going to be played by yours truly. $25 pays $187. Maddie, I'll have a cold one for you when all this comes through.
I hope so.
Don't forget Canada. the Canada 2024 special as well. Just click that. If you're betting Canada and betting $25 on it, you'll get $5 bonus for every goal in the game. Matt, great stuff.
Likewise.
You know, with Dusty often being away on Thursdays, and especially with all the soccer going on right now, I have loved having you in on the program. So hopefully, if the schedule permits, we can do this again, kind of when we're kicking off CFL week as well. And good luck with the picks, especially your soccer, your Euro picks, because I'm riding with them, as sure some of the lock shoppers are as well. And you have a great one today, and obviously a big week. Just quickly, for the hole-in-one yesterday, I was so impressed. What did you hook up there? I saw a camera in Dusty and Eric's golf cart where they had the headsets on.
So no, that they were just bringing the headsets down from the main. So we were set up at the clubhouse. Then we set up also at the 17th tee box. They needed to bring their headsets with them though. And then they were just filming on their camera. So they just had their headsets on. They just didn't take them off. That's all that was.
They're just big headset guys.
They were just big headsets. They just wanted to drive around looking like big shots driving around in headsets.
Tell you what, it looked, I'm like, this Iwanyk is a freaking genius. He's got the golf cart jimmied up so that they're talking on the headset. You shouldn't have taken the curtain back. I was so impressed.
Now it's like one of those things. Okay, now next year I got to do that. I got to find a way to get that done so I could get that all worked up. And then I'll think about that for the next 12 months just to get it done for you, Huss.
Well, I'll tell you what, that looked great. And by the way, how about that opening night of the NHL season?
Jets.
Oilers. May have to plan a little trip out to see our friends at EST for that one.
You also what's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk? You never always you always forget to promote it.
You know what? We're going to be talking with Eddie Tate and getting the latest on the Bombers as Strevler's in. The team's 0-4. We'll do that. Jets development camp is happening right now. Scott Billick and I are going to go at it because we've been going at it on Twitter on a few topics around the Jets. And he's playing a road game today coming into WST. So we're going to have some fun on a few kind of post-free agency thoughts, as well as we'll get the lay of the land of what's happening at development camp. And actually, I think we're going to talk a little Seabears too. Seabears beat, I guess that was
the Stingers. Beat up the Stingers
night.
Yesterday in a very tight one.
Ever since they blasted out Teddy Allen and the guy that he was fighting against the following days, they're coming up big and winning, and they've won 4 in a row right now. So we'll touch on that a little bit, but lots on the Jets development camp. Hot dog contest, trials and tribulations of getting back from Vegas, all coming up at the top of the hour over at Winnipeg Sports.
Before you leave, this just coming from the CFL, Sean Lemon suspended immediately. Arbitrator rules his suspension will take immediate effect pending results of an August 1st through the 2nd hearing. So Sean Lemon back to suspended for wagering on CFL games, including one he played on, will take effect immediately, says an arbiter.
Guess what, folks? We won't be suspended for wagering on CFL games. The exclusives are up. The lines are up. I do wonder whether that maybe takes that Montreal line down a little bit.
It's been a whole weird process of the CFL with Sean Lemon. Like, it's just been weird from retiring to suspended to back to playing to now suspended again. It's just been absolutely wild.
Anyways, pay attention to that number for the game on Saturday. Still time for it to move. But as of right now, Montreal -9.5, although one of their top guys on the defensive line will not be available to go. Maddie, I'll turn it over to you. Great chatting as always. Have a good one. And let's go with the big brain special. I can't wait. I've already bet it.
Me too. There's Haas, Winnipeg Sports Talk. Coming up on the Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube channel. Matt Iwanyk here on the Lock Shop on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in iHeartRadio as well as those watching on YouTube. 2 guys and a goalie with myself, Joaquin Gage, Matt Cassian, coming up in a few minutes. But let's qualify someone for the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival, which is taking place July 12th through the 14th here in Edmonton at Kingsman Park. For those that are out in Winnipeg, it is taking place in Winnipeg, July 19th to the 21st. It features Tom Segura, Bill Burr, Nate Bergazzi, Jerry D. Head to GreatOutdoorsComedyFestival.com for tickets for the Winnipeg. Here in Edmonton as well, you can get tickets. Kevin Hart, Bert Kreischer, Whitney Cummings. That's Saturday and Sunday. It was sold out between Andrew Schultz and Shane Gillis. We got a message, though, today during the Lock Shop that they've added a few extra general admission tickets to the Friday show with Andrew Schultz and Shane Gillis. So head to Great Outdoors Comedy Festival for tickets or qualify right now to go into our draws. Tomorrow morning on the morning show, we'll announce who is the winner of the VIP table to 4 for July 14th. Bert Kreischer, Whitney Cummings at the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival here in Edmonton. Text us Alley Cat to 780-218-9999. Alley Cat is the official beer of the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival here in Edmonton, which will feature the 6 O'Clocker Lager, the first signature event for the 6 O'Clocker Lager. Trev behind the camera, he's excited, he's pumped. It's going to be beautiful weather as of today. Everything looks really good in Edmonton. Fingers crossed, no smoke really rolls in to affect that and change with that forecast. But when we're looking for, our golf tournaments, we're looking at anywhere between, while we're golfing, 23 and 31 degrees. Next Friday for the show, 28 degrees. Saturday for the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival for the show, 29 degrees. Sunday for the show, which we want to qualify you for, at 6 o'clock at night. When does that show get going? Does it have a time here? Can I find a time for this? Sunday show, doors at 6:30. So at 6 o'clock, the forecast right now for that day at 6 o'clock is 33.5 degrees. What hot outside in our beautiful river valley, sitting at your own table where people are going to bring you your drinks and food with a beautiful view of Edmonton downtown, laughing at Bert Kreischer and Whitney Cummings and everything else happening. What better way to end your weekend? As Trev says on the other side, there's no better way. And there really isn't. So text us, Alicat, 780-218-9999, and you will go into a draw for that. That will wrap up the Lock Shop for today. Up next, 2 guys and a goalie. Myself, Joaquin Gage, Matt Cassian will be up here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton sports. And if you're on YouTube, we'll transition you over to that. If you're on the audio stream, you'll have a little Whale on the Wolf, and then we will have 2 guys and a goalie. So don't go anywhere. 2 guys coming up in just a few minutes.